The border between India and Bangladesh stretches for over 4,000 kilometers. It is a porous boundary, marked by rivers, forests, and shared history. This long border has been a source of tension since Bangladesh's independence in 1971. Disputes over land, water resources, and migration have plagued the relationship between the two countries. Smuggling and cross-border crimes further complicate the situation. The recent standoff at Chapai Nawabganj is the latest flashpoint in this ongoing tension. This incident, which involved the use of stun grenades and tear gas by Indian border guards, highlights the fragility of peace along the border. Both countries have a history of deploying force. Often this force is directed at civilians crossing the border. This tension is not new. For decades, there have been reports of violence and killings along the border. Human rights groups have accused both Indian and Bangladeshi border guards of using excessive force. The civilian cost of this border dispute is high. The construction of a fence by India along the border has been a particularly contentious issue. India claims the fence is necessary to curb illegal immigration and smuggling. Bangladesh, however, argues that the fence encroaches on its territory. The fence also cuts off traditional routes used by local communities, disrupting their livelihoods. The spark recent standoff and construction disputes. The recent standoff at Chapai Nawabganj was triggered by a seemingly minor issue, the removal of trees and trimming of grass along the zero line. However, this seemingly small event escalated quickly, leading to a confrontation between border guards. The use of force by the Indian side, particularly against civilians, has further inflamed tensions. Adding fuel to the fire are the ongoing disputes over construction near the border. Bangladesh claims that India has been constructing structures too close to the zero line, violating international law and previous agreements. A case in point is the construction work initiated by India on January 5, 2025, without prior notification to Bangladesh. The construction of the border fence itself remains a major point of contention. India has completed fencing along a significant portion of the border. Bangladesh argues that this fence disregards historical land agreements and cuts off communities on both sides. The fence, meant to stop illegal activities, has become a symbol of mistrust and animosity. The arbitrary nature of the border, drawn hastily during the partition of India and Pakistan, complicates matters further. Many villages and communities find themselves straddling the border, their lives and livelihoods intertwined with both sides. The border fence disrupts these age-old connections, forcing communities into a corner. Political fallout, Hasina's ouster, and public sentiment. The political landscape in Bangladesh has also added a layer of complexity to the border tensions. The ousting of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in August 2024, following student-led protests, has shifted the dynamics. Hasina was seen as being close to India. Her removal from power has emboldened anti-India sentiment within Bangladesh. The interim government in Bangladesh has taken a more assertive stance against India compared to the previous Hasina government. They have halted fencing work at several locations, citing public pressure and concerns about sovereignty. This shift in stance reflects a broader sentiment within Bangladesh. Public anger towards India is palpable in Bangladesh. Protests against India have become commonplace. The interim government, seeking to consolidate its power, has tapped into this anti-India sentiment. They blame Hasina for making too many concessions to India during her tenure. This public anger is not just directed at the Indian government, but also at Sheikh Hasina herself. She is accused of being too close to India and ignoring the interests of Bangladesh. Graffiti and murals depicting Hasina in a negative light, often mocking her relationship with India, have become common sights in Dhaka and other cities. Diplomatic efforts and a way forward. Despite the heightened tensions, both sides are engaged in diplomatic efforts to resolve the situation. High-level talks have taken place and both countries have summoned each other's diplomats to express their concerns. India maintains that an understanding exists regarding border management. However, expert observers warn that the situation remains volatile. The lack of a permanent government in Bangladesh adds to the uncertainty. The interim government, facing internal pressure, may be more inclined to take a hard line against India. The international community has urged both sides to exercise restraint and resolve the issues through dialogue. The United Nations has offered to mediate the dispute. However, for any meaningful progress to be made, both India and Bangladesh need to approach the negotiating table with a spirit of cooperation and mutual respect. A lasting solution to the border tensions requires addressing the root causes. This includes finding a mutually acceptable solution to the border demarcation issue, addressing concerns about smuggling and illegal immigration, and ensuring the well-being of communities living along the border. Both sides need to prioritize dialogue and diplomacy over confrontation.